All right, so today we're diving into something most people probably don't think about much, unless you're in waste management or something.
Right.
But trust me, it's way more interesting than it sounds.
Yeah, definitely.
We're talking about byproducts, the stuff left over, what happens to all the stuff nobody wants. And in this case, we're looking at the poultry industry.
Yeah, it's a pretty messy world if you think about it.
Yeah, no kidding. So the company we're focusing on today is GreenFlow Environmental Solutions, and they're all about sustainable solutions for poultry processing waste, which I gotta say, that's a mouthful.
It is.
And honestly, you know me, I'm always a little skeptical when I hear eco-friendly and waste management in the same sentence.
I get it.
So I went into this deep dive kind of wondering, can a company dealing with, mountains of chicken feathers really be a leader in sustainability? Like, is that even possible?
Well, to really answer that, we have to wrap our heads around just how big this industry is. I mean, the global poultry industry is massive.
Huge.
So the waste it produces is on a whole other level.
Yeah.
We're talking enough feathers to bury a football field, and that's not even counting all the other stuff.
Yeah.
The organic byproducts, the oils, the liquids. It's a lot.
Okay, wow. Yeah, no, that's a lot. I can barely deal with the feathers on my own dryer lint trap. I can't even imagine. So let's talk worst case scenario. What happens if all that stuff isn't disposed of properly?
Well, you're looking at a whole bunch of environmental problems. Water contamination, air pollution, greenhouse gas emissions. It'd be a real mess.
Like an ecological disaster.
Exactly. And that's why there are so many regulations around this stuff. And that's the world GreenFlow is working in. They have to figure out how to manage this mountain of waste while following all these rules.
Right. So it's not as simple as just, taking out the trash. So instead of just disposal, GreenFlow talks about tailored waste solutions and byproduct recycling, which honestly, those sound like things you'd see on like a tech startup's website. Not something dealing with, chicken processing.
Right. I see what you mean.
But it is interesting how they're approaching this.
What they do is they do this full waste assessment for every facility they work with, because every place is different, right?
Makes sense.
And then they create these individual plans for how to deal with the waste from that specific facility.
Okay, so it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing, but we're still talking about a ton of byproducts here. So how does this whole recycling thing actually work? Like in real life? Are we talking about some crazy high-tech feather sorting machine or something?
It's actually not as complicated as you might think. They've come up with some really innovative ways to use what's already there. For example, they can actually turn those feathers, along with some of the other byproducts, into useful stuff, like fertilizer and animal feed.
Wait, you're telling me they can cycle feathers? Like, how is that even possible? Okay, so fertilizer and animal feed, I get it. That makes sense. It's practical, closes the loop. But what's the technology behind it? How do they actually do it?
Well, with the feathers, it's not as simple as just, grinding them up. They have this whole process called hydrolyzation. Basically, it uses high-pressure steam to break down the feathers.
So like a pressure cooker for feathers?
Kind of. It's like they're speeding up natural composting, but they can control it more precisely.
Makes sense, because with the amount of feathers we're talking about, they probably can't wait for Mother Nature to catch up.
Exactly. And this kind of innovation is becoming more and more important these days. Companies like GreenFlow, they're dealing with stricter regulations all the time, and people want sustainable solutions. It's not just about following the rules anymore. It's about staying ahead of the game.
Right. So it sounds like this goes way beyond just one company cleaning up their own backyard. What kind of impact does this have on the bigger picture of sustainability?
Well, one thing is transparency. GreenFlow is really open about their processes. They answer questions, they share information. That's a big deal because it sets a new standard for the whole industry.
So other companies see them doing this and they're more likely to try it themselves.
Exactly. It's like they're proving that you can be profitable and sustainable at the same time.
Which is a good message to send. Speaking of sending messages, I noticed that GreenFlow has been around for a while. They were founded in 1992. That's like ancient history in the world of sustainability.
It is. It says a lot about their experience. They've been dealing with waste management and specifically this poultry processing waste for over 3 decades. They've seen all the changes in regulations, the demand for eco-friendly solutions, everything.
And through it all, they've stuck to this client-focused approach. What does that actually look like in practice, though? Is it really tailored solutions for every facility, or is that just a marketing buzzword?
It seems to be a core part of what they do. They have a whole team that works directly with each client to figure out exactly what they need. They're not just providing a service. They're really trying to partner with these companies to help them be more sustainable.
It makes sense when you think about it. Every facility is different. Every operation has its own quirks. A one-size-fits-all solution wouldn't work in this industry.
Exactly. And that personalized approach is probably a big part of why they have such a good reputation. People trust them to find the best solution.
Okay, so they've got the experience, the technology, the client focus, but what about the heart of it all? What are GreenFlow's core values? Like, what are they really about beyond just making waste disappear? It's got to be more than that, right? It's like you're saying they want to change how we think about waste altogether.
Yeah, definitely. GreenFlow puts their core values right there on their site. Safety compliance, client focus, environmental stewardship. Those aren't just buzzwords for them, it's how they operate.
I'm really drawn to that environmental stewardship piece. It's one thing to follow the rules, but they're going above and beyond. They see their work as part of something bigger.
Right. And it's not all talk either. Remember that zero emissions goal. For an industry that's usually associated with a pretty big environmental footprint, that's a pretty ambitious goal.
Yeah, no kidding. So as we wrap up our deep dive on GreenFlow, what's the big takeaway here? What should our listeners remember about this company?
For me, it's a good reminder that even industries that aren't seen as glamorous can still be doing innovative and important work. GreenFlow is really challenging